Welcome to the southern part of Denmark, where we have bought a 200-year-old farm that needs a lot of renovation. We have spent the first 11 months cleaning out the place and renovating the living room as the first room of the house that we can actually use as a home. Last week we painted the walls in the living room for the second and final time and went hunting in the old grain loft, looking for small furniture and old pictures we can use to decorate the living room. But we for sure need a lot more things to fully furnish this room. But let's see if we can't fix that one step at a time. We're Simon and Simon, and we post a new video every week. We hope you'll consider subscribing and coming along in our farm renovation adventure. After we finally finished painting the living room, we need to start moving in some furniture. But we don't really have much furniture yet, and we want to get some second-hand furniture, mostly. And we were also dreaming about having a rather large dining table, because it's a big living room. And when we cleaned up this whole property, we found a lot of these wooden planks. We also have a second one over here, and also over here in the barn we have 3 or 4 more. And I think they might have been used over here in the barn between where the animals were and where the people or the staff of this farm were. There used to be 3 types of animals on this farm. This was the cow stables, and I'm pretty sure that these long wooden beams have been placed here as dividers. Because this here is where the animals would have walked, and then here is where they were fed. And this part here is probably where, because it's very narrow, so this is probably where you could walk when you needed to put feet in here. And then probably along all of these beams, all the way down, these dividers have been, that's my guess. And this here was, as mentioned, where the cows were. In here, that's where the horses were. And down there was a place where you could open up in horse head height. And down here in the last third of the barns, that's where the pigs were. But yeah, I'm getting off track. I just wanted to explain where I think these long wooden slabs come from. We really like this type of wood. And we would like to give these wooden slabs some new life. So we've decided to make a dining table out of them. We need 2 of them. Actually, we need 1.5. So today I'm gonna cut 2 sections off of this one slab and 1 section of this one slab, and then join them on the back side. And then Simon has ordered some table legs. We ordered 4, but actually we might need 2 more because it's a pretty long table. It'll be 3 meters and 12 centimeters long when it's finished. So I think we're gonna need 2 more for the middle. So yeah, that's the project for this morning, to get these 2 wooden slabs joined. At a later point we'll sand them down and give them some oil, but that won't be today because we're actually having guests later today and we want to use this table. Okay, I think I'm ready to cut the first board now. You might be wondering, why don't you just cut 1 board? Why don't you just take 3 sections of this for 1 board? And that's because I think when I join them that I need as long of a table as possible on each side so that it has a lot of room to be joined. I don't know if I'm explaining the logic of that very correctly, but I hope you get what I mean. I fastened this now in one end. Down here this is fastened in one end, but I can't really do it down here because the board is so long. I think I'll just have to do it very carefully and hopefully it won't move. So that was the first slab. And this is what the cross section looks like. Very nice wood, but I think that looks like marks from woodworms. Okay, now the table is cut into two, and I've actually also cut out some support beams that I'm gonna mount on the bottom side. Because Simon and I have been looking at this table turned upside down, and we have tried placing some table chairs and also imagining where dinner plates would be to try to see, okay, where is the best places to mount these table legs. And I think we've come to decide that we want them here, right close to the edge, placed right there, and of course the same down here. And we're a little unsure. We'll have to see when we turn the table the right way around if we need an extra in the middle. I think we will. But the plan here is, because I've cut two of these beams to 73 centimeters so that can be mounted there. And down here in the other end, this can be mounted here. And right here at the middle of the table, this can be mounted on one of these sides, and this here will go further out to the edge, and then we can have an extra table leg here on the middle if needed. And besides these three beams, I'm also planning to put a metal plate here on each side so that it'll have even more support to keep these two table parts together. So let me go and get some screws so I can mount these three first. Wow, this table has turned out really great, we think. It looks awesome. We need to sand it and give it some oil, but even just the way it is now, it looks really good, I think. We do have one problem, that it's very wobbly. See, if I move the table, it's really, really wobbly. It's of course a very, very big table and only 4 very skinny legs. And those legs are separate. If they had had cross beams or something to stabilize them, it would have been better. Let's go into thinking mode and find out what we do about that. This living room is beginning to look really cozy, I think. Here in the corner, Simon has actually also secondhand found this really amazing dining room chair. And we have a plan to have a small low furniture here to put things on. And down here in this end of the living room, we have bought this sofa also secondhand. And this table was actually one we found in the barns. Right now we're just furnishing with things that we have already and stuff like that. And in the coming months, of course, we will evaluate what works, what doesn't work, what do we need to replace and stuff like that. But for now, this table is fine, and this dining room table here is really fine. It really looks amazing, but we have to find a solution about the wobbliness. If that's the word. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention this bench here. That is actually one of the benches up from the grain loft, where they used to make gymnastics, and people sat along the edges of the grain loft to watch people dance or to watch people do gymnastics. So we have a lot of these benches, and one of them is now in our living room, and we are so happy about that. Also to give this bench a new life. I have mentioned before that one of the nice and very cozy things about having bought a place in the countryside is that we get to see what happens on the fields, which we are not very used to actually. And I have many times before actually shown this field that used to belong to this farm, but now belongs to the neighboring farm. This year there's sugar beets on this field. They plant 3 different kinds of things on this field in a rotation of every 3rd year. And this year it's sugar beets. And in about a month's time they'll be harvesting these sugar beets. But in one of the neighboring fields just over here, they have already harvested whatever was on that field. And right now they're in the process of plowing the field and sowing weeds. Winter wheat. I had no idea what winter wheat was. I know what wheat is, but I thought that you planted wheat in the spring and harvested in the late summer. But not winter wheat. Because wheat in Denmark is typically sown in the autumn, actually, around September to November, so that's just around now. And winter wheat is actually the most common type in Denmark, and that requires a cold period to germinate properly. So that's sown in the autumn, so that it can grow over winter and be harvested the following summer. I really like following along down here what happens on the fields. I think it's so interesting to see this whole process of making things grow in a field and harvesting them and tending to them throughout the seasons. So I can't help myself and have to show you every time something new happens in the field. We have had this farm now for almost a year, and it's quite interesting that we still keep on finding new stuff in the house and especially on the property that we hadn't noticed before. And right now Phoebe and I are taking a walk out in the garden, and I just noticed something that I want to show you. Because down here in a corner of the property where we had the 5th tree cut down, we were walking around and looking at all these branches and stumps and stuff like this that we have to clean up at some point. And I noticed something. Let me see if I can find it again. Oh yes, here it is. Can you see that? It's an old gravestone for Pussy, who died the 5th of April 1985. It could also be 1885 because the property here is very old. But I'm guessing it's 1985. And Pussy got to be 11 years old, it says here. I'm guessing it's a cat, considering the name. And I also know that the elderly woman who had the place here loved cats. We have found a lot of articles and a lot of cat stuff. So yeah, I'm guessing she had a cat, and that's the gravestone for it. Pretty sad, but also a really nice memory to have here in the garden. We will definitely not be touching this. This will get to stay here forever, as long as we have the place at least. Because yeah, that's some of the history with this place that we really love. That, you know, that this is a really old farm with a lot of history, and a lot of different people have lived here through the years. As mentioned, this farm is from 1820. It's 204 years old, this place. But this gravestone for Pussy is probably just around 40 years old. I've gone outside to the road in front of the farm because I want to take a closer look at these carriage doors, if that's what they're called. These needs to be replaced. The wood is almost completely rotten, and yeah, they're really in a poor state. But we have tons of projects, so I have a feeling that it won't be right now that we will be building new carriage doors for this part of the driveway into the courtyard. So for now, I actually think that I will get them cleaned and painted black with some fresh paint, because even though they really do need a replacement, I would like them to look a little nicer in the meantime until we get to that task. Because right now I think they look, yeah, terrible, to say the least. And actually they are in such poor condition that they're almost falling apart. We had our building carpenter put this board up here to keep this door together, and that of course, even though it has helped keeping it together, it doesn't really do anything good for looks on this door, I don't think. But yeah, it has a lot of this green algae on it all over. So of course I can't just paint over that. That won't be very good. So I think I'll take some wood cleaner and get this cleaned off the best I can. And tomorrow when this is dry, and I will paint it black, and hopefully that'll make them look a little nicer until we get to this task of replacing these doors. I just realized I'm totally unprepared for this task actually. I don't really have anything to scrub with, so I've put this wood cleaner in a bucket of water. And yeah, I hope you're not in the middle of dinner, because I've gone out and stolen our toilet brush. It's really getting dark early this time of year. I'm really losing light. But I think I managed to clean up these gates a little. It's certainly not perfect. I also found out that I'm even more unprepared than just not having the right brush. I also didn't have a water hose long enough. So I had to get water from the water hose in the middle of the courtyard. But yeah, it's better to get something done than to get it done perfectly, I think. So now I think I managed to clean these up good enough for them to be painted. And this is, as mentioned, not a permanent solution. This is just to make them look a little nicer until maybe next summer when I get a chance to build some new doors. Next time, Simon and I are venturing into the field here right in front of the farm that has all the sugar beets. And we're going to dig up a couple of sugar beets. Why, you might ask? I promise to tell you more what that's all about, but it's something to do with a very old tradition in these parts of Denmark. I'll also be testing out a brand new self-propelled lawnmower that I've just gotten. And I will get to painting those gates and making them look a little nicer. I hope you'll consider subscribing and following along in our process of renovating this farm inside and outside, and also very soon processing all of this firewood from the trees that we have cut down here in the garden. See you in a week.